All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual College Exploration for all Wisconsin students, sponsored by the Wisconsin Association for College Admissions Counseling and StriveScan. My name is Nick Spaeth, and I am the Director of College Counseling at Brookfield Academy. I also happen to serve as the president of the Wisconsin Association for College Admissions Counseling, so kind of an extra special thank you for being here. Attendees, thanks for choosing Finding Your Fit tonight. A few bits of housekeeping before I turn it over to the presenters. First off, in this format, your camera and microphone are turned off. And so in order to ask a question of the panelists, you do need to use the Q&A button. And so at any time you have a question that comes up, or if the panelists ask you a question, you can answer or ask that question using the Q&A button. And then a reminder that this recording and a recording of all of the sessions as a part of this virtual college exploration will be made available on the website wacac.com. That should be updated probably within the next few days so that all the recordings are available. While you're there, if you stop over there today or early tomorrow, you can also sign up for the remaining sessions that run through tomorrow evening. And with that, I will turn it over to the presenters. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Well, we are so excited to have you all joining us today for a special presentation on finding your fit for college. You all are lucky because you're actually in the room with a few different colleges who we all have different vibes, different energy, but we have some common values. And so we partnered today in order to speak with you all about how to really look into finding your fit. So let's introduce ourselves before we hit the gas. My name is Alexis Carter, and I'm joining you all from Alverno College, located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sean Keating. I am the Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Cardinal Stritch University, also in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Everyone, I'm Brian Weber. I'm the Director of Admissions at Viterbo University over in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Thanks for being here.
So before we kind of get into the details, we always talk to students. I know myself, and fellas, you chime in as well, but students always say to us kind of, I want this in a college, I want that in a college, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. So we actually, before we get into the details, thought it'd be best to talk with you all about the best way to secure your fit. So whatever the college, what are kind of those things you should really consider starting with? So a recommendation I love to make to students is, as you're looking for colleges, please complete the process at least 3 places. Some say a private, a public, and a technical school are ideal, but to me, you really don't know where you need to be until you feel it, you taste it, you know what it looks like. So touring the campus, looking at what the campus offers, and then physically applying are really, really crucial steps, even though it sounds simple, in beginning your process. Ideally, you need to make a selection based on fit for your needs, your interests, and kind of who it is that you want to be. Any of you fellas want to share the list that we have on the side for our attendees?
Yeah, definitely. I'll kind of start out there first. So one of the things that we put into this slide here is developing a short list. So what are the schools that you're most interested in pursuing for your college education? Like Alexa says, that can be any combination of institutions. Obviously, the 3 of us would love it to be one of our institutions, but taking your time as you visit schools, you learn about them online, as you visit websites like niche.com or CapEx, and you sign up through those sources, talking to your high school admissions counselors, transfer advisors even, listing out pros and cons, especially right after a visit. It's really hard to keep that stuff in your mind like a day or 2 afterwards, about what you liked and what you didn't like. And think about what your wants and needs are. What do you really want in a school? What do you need in a school? And that gets back to not just the academic side of things, but also to the student life aspect of types of things. Brian, why don't you talk about not procrastinating?
Yeah, you don't want to procrastinate, and you also don't want to hit that senior slide. So for most students, you know, as you're looking at colleges, what we're going to be looking at when you apply, we're looking at through your junior year grades, activities, things like that. And then we might get a senior year update too. But you really want to get ahead of this senior year as much as you can and start to do some research on schools. Think about what careers you want, what programs might help you get there, and ask those questions of each school. Do you have this, and how does it work at your institution? That campus feel, though, when you actually can schedule a tour, talk to admissions, talk to current students, maybe there'll be opportunities, even during COVID, to get on a campus and do those things, or even to take it a step further and get into a classroom and see what the student experience is like. Do as much of that as you can, because I think as you go into then senior year, you've got the applications to deal with, you've got financial aid to deal with, and get through. I mean, there's other steps that will be there for you senior year. So try to do as much as you can on the front end, and it'll just keep everything lined up real nicely for you to take care of those as you go through that year. When you get on the campus, make sure you have some questions for the tour guides, the students. They might be the same questions at every school, but as you do that research, as you see what's on their website, what schools are kind of known for, you might be able to cater those questions a little bit at each visit too. The big thing, you might not get that feeling on a campus. Some people talk about having that feeling that it was just right when they visited campus. And that's great. That's exciting when that happens, but that might not happen for you. And so if you need to go back for another visit to learn more, if you need to kind of see some other options so you really can fully develop that pros and cons list that was mentioned, do that. Do as much as you can to really see where your interests are and answer those questions for yourself. Alexis or Sean, do you want to talk a little bit more about kind of seeing what you envision and what compromises you want to make?
Yeah, definitely. I'll jump into with, I want to reference Brian's question there. One of the things I always encourage students to do is make sure you ask your student tour guide questions. Sometimes we have visits here on campus where our prospective students don't ask our student ambassadors questions. They're the one taking classes. They live in the residence halls. They eat the food. And I'm surprised how often they actually don't get questions from prospective students. Students kind of stay quiet and they're just looking around. That's your best resource, is that current student. To ask yourself where you want to be in 4 years is a big question. I had a pretty good idea of where I wanted to be at the end of the four years of college. I thought I was going to be Howard Stern. Somehow I ended up as a director of admissions working at a liberal arts college. So you never know where you're going to end up, but that's the great thing about pursuing an education at institutions like ours, is we can prepare you for a lot of different eventualities. Things change while you're in school. That 4 years of education is about exploration and opportunity and what you take advantage of, so you can be better prepared for a career and pursuing different passions after you graduate. Alexis?
In addition, I always see this trend with students where now, because you guys are applying, students will say, I want to look at this scholarship, but do I have to commit to Alverno first? Absolutely not. Going back to that idea of 3 colleges, 3 options, you are not committed or obligated to any college until you literally sit your butt in a seat, open your book, and have completed all your financial aid. So please know that all of our jobs as college people are to give you the information and kind of tell you what our school offers. But please know that at any point in time, if you're like, college, not for me, then that admissions person is gonna, take that and listen to that. So sometimes going back to students and communicating, folks are nervous. They don't always want to say how they're feeling. I know sometimes I'll have a student and they're like, I actually am going to school in California, not Wisconsin, but you're so nice. I didn't want to tell you. Go ahead and tell us. It is fine. Not a problem for us, because it really goes back to securing your fit. Much like Sean, we've already lived our lives. We're grown-ups. We have things going on. So because of it, this is really your opportunity, and we are resources for all you to really help you secure your fit for your next chapter in life.
And I love our last point here is decide on the things that you're willing to compromise on. Unfortunately, our 3 institutions, none of us have a lazy river. on campus. And I don't think any of us have room to build a lazy river. You look at a lot of larger state universities and big private institutions, and they're building these massive rec facilities with lazy rivers. The great news is we are all close to rivers, which is really nice. Grab a kayak, rent one from a student affairs office, or go out on a student program where you get to take advantage of the location of our institutions. But be willing to compromise. Look for the things that you really want in an institution, but also know sometimes you're not going to get everything that you're expecting at an institution. Any other comments on that last slide? All right. So all three of our institutions are Franciscan universities. So that means we share many of the same values between our institutions, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to partner for this presentation. Surprisingly, there's over 20 Franciscan institutions in the nation, and out of those institutions, 3 of them, ours, are all located right here in Wisconsin, which is really exciting. Each of our schools kind of approaches our Franciscan values in different ways, which is awesome. We interpret them differently, we apply them differently, but at the root cause, that's where we find kind of our connection between our institutions, which really makes us singular institutions in a lot of ways and makes us stand out amongst a really crowded field. I'm going to talk about kind of personally one of my values here and something that we've identified here at Stritch as a value we're going to really focus on this year, and that's being an instrument of peace and making peace. Obviously, we're living in really unusual, troubling times, and finding ways to make peace and promote that in our campus community, as well as a broader community here in the north side of Milwaukee and the surrounding counties and throughout the state is really important for us. I want to pitch it over to Alexis and Brian, maybe to talk a little bit about values that their schools are focusing on, or values that are important to them in the work they do with their students.
Sure, thanks. So at Viterbo, we've got 5 kind of core values, and they really mirror some of Stritch's in a lot of ways. But hospitality is one of the biggest ones you'll see. So I've worked at 3 different college campuses, and this is by far the friendliest place I've ever been at. People want to get to know you. They want to include you in things. And I think it's really a testament to the community here that they live out that value of hospitality, making sure everyone feels welcome and included. So you'll see things like that on all of our campuses. And I think, I'd encourage you to make sure you come tour and see that for yourself. But living for others and doing things for others is some common themes you'll see throughout this. And I think the hospitality one at Viterbo is really one that is extremely visible on our campus.
Awesome. I would say for Alverno College, being a Franciscan environment, I really feel like it's the foundation of how we perceive and work with our students. It's the foundation of our values. But at all of our campuses, there's such a diversity in student, tall, short, black, white, all these differences. And so with having shared values, one of the things I know that we do well at Alverno is the idea that while we are Franciscan, our community is very important to us. So community is a big element of our values at Alverno, and we manifest community through a few different things, but one in particular, which we're trying to revisit in a different way due to COVID, is a service day in which our whole campus shuts down, faculty, staff, teachers, everybody, and we roll up our sleeves and identify places in the city where we work. I gotta imagine your guys' communities have some sort of service component, but I know at Alverno, it's something we talk about at the beginning of your experience, and it goes all the way through. And values are something that really are the core of who you are. And the fact that us as 3 different colleges share them, it's important to us because even if you don't attend our colleges, we all have kind of the same what's it called? What am I trying to say? We all have the same mission to get students out here and to use these values, our core, to really help you be a change agent for where you end up in life. So I love that even though we're different, we're the same in the sense that being Franciscan is who we are, and we're proud of that.
Very well said. That was great. So where are we? So I'll let Alexis start here with talking about a little bit more about where Alverno is located. Alexis and I get to go first. We went alphabetical on our listing here. So Brian gets to go last, unfortunately, but we'll switch it up in just a second. So Alexis, why don't you start talking a little bit about where we are in
Sure.
Milwaukee?
So please know, you guys, the Midwest, Wisconsin, we're a little bit of everything. So let's just talk about Wisconsin as a whole, because it's a vibe, guys. It's cheese, yeah, I'll just stop there because we're going to talk about it. So my campus, Alverno College, we are kind of what we call like the middle of Milwaukee. The reason why is because Milwaukee's a city, but we are literally 8 miles downtown from where our championship Milwaukee, well, they would be the champs, but COVID threw it off. Right. Soon to be champs. Milwaukee Bucks play. And then our campus is actually not far from the Brewers Stadium. So I can't lie, guys. I feel a little like it's not fair because I got these 2 great sports landmarks that I can reference for location, but literally we're a zip from one another in the sense that you can easily get on an expressway or the road in order to get to one another. So that's kind of the best way I describe us. We're by the sports stuff.
So we get the wonderful distinction of being on the north side of Milwaukee, which has a lot of great opportunities. So we're about 15 minutes from downtown Milwaukee. We're about 4 blocks away from the lakefront, which is awesome. Our lakefront access, though, it's a little rocky. So not a lot of laying out on the beach when school starts at the end of August here, beginning of September. But just like Alexa said, Stritch is really close to downtown. There's a lot of great opportunities, which I'll touch on in just a little bit. I noticed that Alexis put in a custard joint. So she's got Leon's frozen custard. I have to say Kopp's frozen custard is literally 5 minutes from campus, probably one of the best custard places in Milwaukee. So I don't want to get into a custard fight though, but really good custard.
Oh, I have to interrupt you, Sean, just because for any of y'all who are tuning in where you are not from the Midwest, custard is literally ice cream, but with egg in it. Is that correct, guys? That's right? Yeah. I'm a Seattle transport, but it's just a richer, thicker, more delicious ice cream. Okay?
It's amazing. It will make your eyes roll into the back of your head. Enough about custard. Brian, go ahead.
Well, yeah, Viterbo is actually on the west side of Wisconsin. We affectionately call it the west coast of Wisconsin in La Crosse. And La Crosse is really a college town. I mean, we have 3 colleges here, a tech college, UW La Crosse, and us. So when you think about like the 50, 60,000 that live in the city of La Crosse, almost 13,000 of them are college students. And so it's really a unique atmosphere. And our students love the outdoor opportunities with the river here, kayaking. There's a beach right across from downtown, and hiking and things like that. I'm going for a hike after this session. So it's really accessible to folks, and obviously outdoors is free. So you can get out there and use that anytime you want. But folks like that balance, I think, of being in a place where things are really catered to college students out here in kind of the beautiful driftless region of western Wisconsin.
So we did want to throw up a quick map so you guys kind of get a sense of where we are in relation to each other. So Alexis and I get to be here on the East Coast, and Brian gets to be on the West Coast, sunny and warm West Coast of Wisconsin. Our campus way up here in the north, and then Alexis, one of you is these yellow stars down here someplace. So yellow star, and then Brian is way over here on the West Coast. And like we've said, there's similarities with our campuses, size and feel, the values of our campuses, the locations make our campuses truly unique in a lot of different ways. So how are we different? So Brian gets to talk a little bit first about how he's different from everybody else.
Yeah, thanks. There's a lot of similarities on our campuses. So I think for all of us, you'll find those values, but for academic programs in particular, you might find some differences. Viterbo has a liberal arts core to everything we do. So we want folks to have that well-rounded education, but we also have a lot of professional training programs. So you think about programs that might need a license at the end, like nursing, social work, things like that. And a lot of kind of STEM and science education opportunities too. The program we're probably most well known for nationally, we get students from all over the country for it, is actually a music theater program too. That's a top 30 program in the country. So it's kind of cool as a student, even if you're not interested in that at all, or you don't have any skills in that, you still get the benefit because your students, your classmates are doing these national caliber performances every year, and you get to go check that out. It's kind of cool. We also have a 4-year guarantee, which might be a little unique. We work with you all 4 years and make sure you get done on time. And if you don't, through no fault of your own, we'll pay for that extra time. So kind of a unique thing there.
Brilliant. So at Stritch, we've had a lot of exciting developments at Stritch this past year. So this fall, we actually have launched a brand new curriculum. So we did a pretty extensive 3-year review of our courses and our academics and our degrees and our major programs. And basically based off of that review, we came up with a whole new curriculum. And a big part of that curriculum is actually designing your own major using academic concentrations. So instead of, going through kind of a slog through a traditional bachelor's degree or a BA or a BS degree, you actually can select the courses that you're most interested in and build a degree concentration, which gets you your ultimate degree. We still have degree pathways that you can follow at Stritch, so you can do very traditional stuff like business and biology and chemistry, but through the design your own major option, you actually get the option now that if you want to combine academic areas of interest. So for example, you're interested in biology and you're interested in data and analytics or statistics. Right there, you have a bioinformatics degree if you wanted to get into that. We also have new programs like sport entertainment, which is really exciting. It pulls business, athletics management, marketing, things like that into the academic spectrum as well. Part of our new curriculum too is required internships and externships. The more and more we talk with prospective students and with our current students, we're finding more and more focus on the need to actually get hands-on skills. Our location on the north side of Milwaukee for Stritch is paramount because you get access to Fortune 50 companies because of that. And you have options for different types of internships and externships here on campus and off campus. So there's a lot of great opportunities there. And student life, obviously, there's a lot of things that we do very similar to both institutions that we're here with today that we also do differently. So volunteerism is a huge focus of our curriculum, whether it's through courses, through student life, through the residence halls, even with our athletics teams, is getting involved in the community. And that's hard to do, obviously, with COVID right now. And I know our students are chomping at the bit to get out there and do more in the community. And hopefully, as things improve, we'll be able to do more of that. Alexis?
Last but not least, so the super special sauce that comes from Alverno College, in my opinion, is we are all girl. So traditionally, we are an all girl space. We actually allow for men to join Alverno, but through the graduate degree program. So that means you have to already acquire a bachelor's, but we have been all girl and we're an all girl vibe. And the reason why is when we were founded, there used to be many all-girl colleges, and now, much like Franciscan institutions, they're becoming less and less, but us being all girls is very much in line with our identity. And in addition to that, we have an unconventional curriculum in the sense that we're ability-based. So I know for many of you students, if you're a junior, senior, for a lot of your life, you've been quantified by, what's your ACT, what's your GPA, what's your number, what's your rank. For us, abilities, 8 of them, really make up how a student learns at Alverno. So these 8 areas of focus are called the abilities, and some examples include like communication, analysis, global perspective, and the idea is that through your 4 years of learning, you'll get validations in each level. And those levels will build as level 1 freshman year, level 2, level 3, level 4. The reason why we have ability is because in the 70s, Alverno was kind of reevaluating how women were being introduced to the workforce. And what we did is we went out into the community and said, what do women need to be successful in the job? Because when you go to work, you don't get told you get an A or a B for the day. You get told you really communicated well, you were very effective at that. So in correlation with our employers in our community, ability, and then our school's philosophy, we worked together and came up with these 8. And ever since we started the 8 abilities, it's world renowned. We have organizations, there are schools that model after the Alverno philosophy, and we have a long history of really strong and influential women who spent time with Alverno. So another thing that makes us different, aside from being all girl and ability based, is undeclared. Most of our students actually enter Alverno as a student who has not decided what she wants to do. The reason why is because one, there's a statistic, students change their major up to 3 times before they hit their sophomore year. And so what we allow for you to do at Alverno is, if you are a student and you feel like you want to be a nurse, but you also want to be a dance major, you can take some nursing classes, and you can also take a ballet class. That's the extreme version, but I really just want to be clear on the idea that who you are is very important to us. So at Alverno, in addition to your academic curriculum and the rigor you're going to experience, we want you to come out in 4 years as a whole person. And so we're going to incorporate not just what you're learning in the classroom, but also your sense of self. And so us being all girls really allows for women to just feel connected, feel like they can kind of open up and encourage one another. And it's really a space where it only takes not too long for you to realize there's no fellas. And with that, our 30 majors and minors really break down the idea that you can do a lot of different things, and that whoever you feel like you want to be, even if you're growing into it, you can decide on. So to me, that is some of the major differences that really just make us who we are, but proud of who we are.
So one of our last slides here is, how are we the same? So as we've mentioned, there's a lot of similarities with our institutions, but we want to kind of highlight some of our admissions practices. And some of these are obviously practices that are a little bit more impacted by current situation with COVID. So I'm happy to report on behalf of all of us, all 3 of our institutions are test optional because of COVID. I know here at Stritch, and I know Alexis and Brian can kind of chime in on their institution's behalf, we're looking at this probably becoming a permanent change. I was just reading this morning about how frequently now ACT is canceling testing dates, or they can't secure testing sites. So November test dates and December test dates internationally, test dates are being canceled. So more and more students are being impacted by not being able to take the ACT, SAT. So that means our institutions are starting to look more holistically at students when you apply to our institutions, looking more in depth at your applications, looking more at your GPAs, your transcripts, your courses that you took previously at high school or at other institutions if you're transferring. So that really works to a lot of students' benefit, especially if you're not a great test taker like me. So there's a lot of good opportunities there. Brian or Alexis, did you want to mention anything about test optional at your institutions?
Sure. I was just going to add to test optional. Students, please know that test optional is an opportunity for you. I think because schools are looking at you, as Sean said, a little more holistically in lieu of COVID and all that has transpired, it's really an opportunity. So I would say, if you have in your mind, a top spot, or even someplace where you're like, I could never afford it, don't worry about that. Students say to me all the time, well, how much is this going to cost me? That's a great question. It's going to cost a little, no one ever pays a sticker price for college, but it's going to cost different depending on your background and your information. So please just know that test optional really is an opportunity for you to throw your name in the hat and be reviewed in a way that in the past might have been a little bit different, which I think is just great, because much like Sean, when I was in school, wasn't the top of the test, but was definitely a student who was engaged and, ready to do the work. So.
Yeah, great comments. And I think for Viterbo, this is going to be our first year being test optional. And so for you seniors, you're the first class we're admitting that way. When you go into the admissions application itself, and just a plug that none of us have application fees, this free to apply, you'll be able to answer a question if you plan to send us scores or not. If you've already sent us scores, but you don't want us to consider them, you can still tell us there that too. And so for both admission and for scholarship consideration, we're going to do what's best for you. We're not going to make you try to guess, should I send my scores or not? If we've already got them, we'll do whatever's best for you in that situation and offer you as much financial aid as we can.
Yeah, great. Yeah, the idea of application fees, I know many institutions, including ours, we looked at deposit fees going into this past year, waiving those for students or reducing those for students. So there's a lot of flexibility that our institutions can offer students, especially during this unusual time. Small schools have that benefit of a lot of flexibility and the opportunity to give you a little bit more personalized attention. I think we could all agree that we know, especially on the financial aid end of things, that every family is being impacted really differently as a result of layoffs and furloughs, job losses, permanent losses in some cases, and that really impacts you on the financial aid end as well. And what's great about every one of our institutions is our financial aid directors and officers, as much as they are our financial aid people, they are a wealth of knowledge. And sometimes I will catch our financial aid director talking to a student about one of our sister schools that's here in the call and saying, well, you know, they can offer you this, this, and this, counseling the students for what's best for the student. And that's what we're really interested in, is what can we do that's best for a student? Sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean the right fit for one of our institutions, especially on the financial aid side. But yeah, the whole role of us being admissions personnel is to get to know you and get to help you and help you find that fit. And who knows what curveball is going to get thrown our way over the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 hours, who knows? So we're always ready to be nimble and adjust and help students out as much as we can. Any other comments, Alexis or Brian, on how we're the same?
I would add too, that in your guys' life, differences in like people being different or whatever, because you'll notice when you're on your campuses, guys, you're gonna probably feel really good, like, oh my gosh, I feel like a panther. I know we're called the Inferno. I have on a little Inferno gear here. But going back to that, all the same, college is supposed to be super fun, exciting. You should feel energetic about it. So going back to that idea of touring, viewing, communicating, all that good stuff, please just know that you're never a bother to an admissions person. A lot of times students say to me, you know, oh, I'm so sorry, miss. No, don't even worry about it. Consider an admissions person kind of like your personal person, in the sense that they're going to help you navigate this process. So at any juncture, financial aid, the application process, or any details, please do not hesitate. And say if you're communicating with a college and you get a real not too good feeling because maybe you're not getting the level of service that you want, we have bosses. So just know, in terms of satisfaction, because you're making a decision and a commitment, and it's that of 4 years, and maybe even more depending on what you transition into after the fact, a good school is going to be able to answer those questions for you, and they're going to be able to give you what it is that you're looking for, and be honest about what they can and can't do.
I think those are great comments. I think for some framing for students going into senior year, all of those things, the feel of campus, the programs, the cost, all of those things factor into fit and finding your fit with an institution. In terms of timing, you might not have that financial aid piece figured out until the spring of senior year, and don't feel bad about that. Everyone's going through the same process. So if you can apply for admission in the fall and have that piece done, great. But that late fall and winter time is when a lot of families start to fill out financial aid applications, something called the FAFSA, which is free and federal. And most schools, probably 99% of schools in the country, use that. But there might be some other opportunities for financial aid through your institutions too. And I would really encourage you to seek those out. You know, at Viterbo, we have some extra scholarships that donors have created. Some you have to apply for, some you don't. We'll just consider you for. But you'll want to look at that, particularly in, say, starting in October, to make sure you're getting all of those opportunities that are available to you. So at the end of this, you know, every school does the timing a little differently in terms of getting you final financial aid packages. But at the end of this, probably in January, February, March, you'll have financial aid offers from all of your schools. And then you can really start comparing that last piece of the fit component. You know, what is it going to cost, and what does that look like for me at each institution? So So stick with your schools. Don't rule anybody out until you've really seen that last part of the fit equation, which might not happen till March. So just don't feel like you're behind, because that's the same for everybody. So you'll be in good shape.
So we've kind of wrapped up the bulk of our presentation, what we wanted to talk to you all about. So thank you very much for sticking with us through what we have to say. This is all of our contact information, our phone numbers, direct line phone numbers, yay, and our emails. Like Alexa said, we're all bosses. Yes. So you get some direct lines here to talk to us about admissions, about financial aid, about student life. We're more than happy to help you all. It looked like before we had a question come in.
I was going to say, I totally wrote in the chat because it said Alverno. We had a question of, does Alverno have residence halls, dormitories? So I just answered, we do.
Yep. Yeah, the nice thing is with all of our institutions, we all have residence halls. I know all of us are kind of addressing residence hall life a little bit differently as a result of COVID here at Stritch. We basically took all of our doubles and converted them into singles, which is awesome. You get so much space. And one of the results of that is we also ended up billing students differently. We gave students a reduced rate to live in a double as a single. And then most of our suites, our 4 and 6 person suites, we reduced down to about 3 to 4 people, and again at a reduced cost.
We had another question in the chat. It was, could you share information about your nursing programs? We all got one, so who wants to go first?
Rock, paper, scissors? Go ahead, Alexis.
So regarding nursing at Alverno, because we are ability-based, it's a little bit different in the sense that people come to us for medical programs or pre-law programs and they're like, what? I'm not going to get any grades for this. How? The way we do nursing is very hands-on. Being ability-based really requires us to make sure that physically you do the activity so that you can know it. It's a matter of life or death in terms of being a nursing professional. So we even use like our simulators, our simulation lab, in order to put you right in front of a fake body that can, you know, it's a dummy, it can give birth, it can bleed, it can hemorrhage, it can do all those things. And it's working with instructors, you're kind of put in a simulator in order to perform that function. So all of our programs, not just nursing, are like that. And we offer the ability of what we call shadow grades, which allows for students to transition from ability-based to having some sort of number or letter if needed with their program. I hope that it's kind of like, that's like nursing, like 10%. It's diet nursing, but I have other people who have to talk about nursing. So I hope that answered.
Oh, she muted herself too fast. So we do have a nursing program. There's a couple ways into our nursing program, just like a lot of other programs. We have a pre-nursing program. So if you're not fully academically qualified to enter direct admissions into the nursing program, you go into pre-nursing, gives you a chance to improve your grades, things like that. You do get taught by nursing faculty in some cases. But then we also have a direct entry nursing program here at Stritch for freshmen, which guarantees you direct access into the nursing program. You start taking your classes for nursing a little bit earlier. We do have an RN to BSN program and an MSN program. I think for any one of our programs, we have great resources for clinical experience. Being a smaller school, hospitals and healthcare partners tend to be willing to work with us more closely. So I know out west, Gunderson Health is a really big network partner out west for both Alexis and I, probably Aurora and the Freighter healthcare system. So there's a lot of great clinical opportunities because we have smaller programs, and hospital networks tend to be willing to work more with our programs individually to get us more opportunities for our students. We have a great sim center, very small focused program. We have about 50 nursing students a year. So there's a lot of great opportunities in our programs.
Yeah, the Viterbo's nursing program is actually our largest undergrad program. We started out training teachers, and then we jumped into training nurses, and then it grew and grew from there. So it's been kind of a core focus for us over the years. We can start, well, I'll back up. So coming into Viterbo, you can be a direct admit student. You can be a holistic admit student. So maybe you didn't have, the GPA we were specifically looking for, but you've got a lot of potential in that program. Or if you need some math or chemistry prep work, you can be a pre-nursing student. So there's kind of 3 routes to get started. Everybody does some kind of core science coursework that freshman year, and then the professional sequence for nursing really kicks off sophomore year and goes through those last 3 years, including clinical placements and other things. We've got a lot of ties with Gunderson here in La Crosse. It's a huge hospital system, top 50 health system in the US, and Mayo system, which is also right across the street from us here in La Crosse. So it's a pretty big program. For that sophomore year, that professional sequence, we start about 125 nurses in the fall and 75 in the spring. So there's lots of opportunities to get into those programs. And we haven't had to turn anybody away who's been qualified. So really strong program though. I saw there was another question about pharmacy programs too. And so maybe I'll start the conversation there. And we have maybe just a few minutes, so we'll try to get through this. But at Viterbo, the pre-health areas include pre-pharmacy. So we don't have a graduate pharmacy program, whereas we have a graduate nursing program. But we have all the core sciences, the biologies, the chemistries, the physics that you'll need to go on to graduate school in pharmacy. So training for the PCAT and looking at those programs. But I'll let Alexis and Sean jump in.
Famous Brian. I'm sorry. I started talking. I was excited. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm going to say I actually worked at the Medical College of Wisconsin Pharmacy School, which has an agreement with all 3 of our institutions.
I was gonna say we're hanging out with the medical college. So
yes. So direct pipelines from all 3 of our schools pre-pharmacy to the Medical College of Wisconsin. So 3 years pre-pharmacy, typically biology, then admissions into the Medical College of Wisconsin Pharmacy School here in Milwaukee. I know we got other questions and we have like 4 minutes, but I think unless Alexis, you want to say something else about pharmacy?
No, I was going to say, let's roll into the other questions. I was going to answer them.
Next question, what are the Hispanic populations? What are the average costs per semester? I can say real fast for Stritch. We have about 15 to 18%, kind of depending on the year, of our student body is Hispanic. And then it kind of depends. Average cost per semester depends on the student, depends on the type of aid. Scholarships you're going to get at each of our institutions. I would typically say out-of-pocket cost here at Stritch on average for a year is about $6,000. But again, that depends on the students. That's about the average. So figure about $3,000 per semester on average. It can be up or lower.
Yep. So for us, Alverno is actually the first Hispanic serving institution in Wisconsin. So with that being said, it means that we have 25% of our students identify as Latina. Because of that, we get a little bit of additional funding that supports student success. And then with being an HSI, it just means we really have an infrastructure that can support, Latina students in making sure that they can acclimate to college well. In terms of our costs, I know I said it in the presentation, but no, any college, kind of like when you go on a car lot and you see that big shiny sticker in the window and you're like, I am spending this much. I'm not spending that much. You never pay the sticker price for college. So you might be quoted a number and it may look very substantial, but please know there's so many things being factored in, much like Brian and Sean went into the FAFSA. You put that money in, that is how you figure out what it costs. So please know you will never pay that big, bright sticker amount when it comes to the cost of the college that you're interested in.
Yeah. For Viterbo, we're probably not quite as diverse as the other 2 institutions, just being over on the western side of the state. We get students, our freshman class, from 25 different states, but about 50% of our students are from within about an hour away. So not quite as diverse there. And net costs might be similar to what the other schools have already mentioned here. I think we only have a minute left. So what type of support is offered to freshmen? Everything from having an RA on your floor to a resident advisor to kind of help you make that transition, to academic advisors that are professional advisors or faculty advisors who are in your program to support you, student orientation leaders at a lot of these places who are peers and mentors to kind of help you make that transition to college. But in some cases, there's even more. And so, you know, if you're a first generation college student, if you are a student coming from, you know, a more diverse or even underrepresented background, you know, there might be even special programs to help you make that transition and make sure you've got all the support you can have to be successful at this next level. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything else there.
No.
All right, well, presenters, thank you so much. We are out of time. Really appreciate the insight and the content that you were able to share with us. Attendees, again, thank you for joining us. A few bits of last minute housekeeping. When I end the broadcast, there will be a quick survey that pops up. 4 questions. Please do us the favor of filling that out and letting us know how things went. And a reminder again that you can sign up for tomorrow's sessions as well as find recordings of all sessions over the last 2 weeks on the website wacac.com. Thanks and have a great end of the evening. Bye.